All right, in this video, I'm going to show you why using Alt-D to duplicate objects is better in some cases. All right, now, in my opinion, for the stuff that I make, using Alt-D is definitely better. Now, what's the difference between Alt-D and Shift-D to duplicate an object? Well, when it comes to rendering, the difference is each object has its own data block. And if you press Shift-D to duplicate an object, you're also creating a new data block for that object. And all of those data blocks have to be transferred to the GPU. And all of that takes up memory. It takes up time for the interface to process it and send it to the GPU. Now, if you press Alt-D, you only have one data block, regardless of how many objects you created duplicates of from that original object, because it just shares that same data block. Now, I'm going to show you what the difference is. Right here, I have this scene right here has 54,553 objects. You know, I used Alt-D for this one. It works just fine. Now, let me go ahead and put this in camera view, move it over to the side here. Now, this right here is the same exact scene. The only difference is these were created using Shift-D. Now, let me kind of explain a little bit what I'm talking about. Like, here's a window. All of these windows that are this exact size, they are Shift-D duplicates of each other, meaning this has its own data block and this has its own data block. All of these columns that are duplicates of each other, they all have their own data blocks. Same way with the floors and so forth, and the materials and all of that. Now, look how much more sluggish. Let me zoom out a little bit. Let me put this in. Look how much more sluggish this is. I mean, it's updating maybe 2.5, maybe 3 frames per second. Now, I'll go back over here to the other one. And this has the same number of objects, 54,553. But look how much more smooth this is. And the only difference is I used Alt-D instead of Shift-D to duplicate objects. The interface sluggishness is a big, huge plus, or the lack of sluggishness is a big, huge plus, especially when you're talking about 50,000 plus objects. Now, here's another benefit. I'm going to come up here to preferences, and I'll say I'm showing you that I'm using the same GPU for both of them. All right, I'm using the 5060 Ti in the second slide, and for both of them. Now I'm going to bring up Task Manager, and this right here is the GPU. Now, this should use more memory on the Shift-D versus the Alt-D. All right, it's showing no memory usage right now because there's nothing being sent to that GPU. So I'm going to click Render Image. Now watch how long it takes to actually build this scene. I mean, it's just sitting here doing nothing, and watch, it will actually go through, and here it's adding the data blocks to the GPU, or sending the data blocks to the GPU, or preparing them. I think it's probably actually preparing them. But you can see the memory start to go up a little bit. I don't think it's going to use a whole lot of memory. We're only up to like 800 megabytes, but it will probably use more memory. 1.3 gig. Took 33 seconds, but about 30 seconds of that was just building the scene. Now watch what happens when I do the same thing over here, but on the Alt-D. Render Image. Still has a little bit of pause because it's still a lot of data. But look, it started rendering just 10 seconds in, and by less than 13 seconds, it was finished. A lot quicker preparing the scene, especially when you have a huge number of objects and you use Alt-D to duplicate the objects instead of Shift-D. But that's the biggest advantage. Now, if you look right here, or see, it did use less memory. It went from 1.36 gigabytes down to 1.1. So it used a little bit less, but not a huge amount less. Because for one thing, these are simple materials. But yeah, the biggest difference is the speed of the rendering and the performance of the UI. Now, I hadn't actually tested this part yet, but I'm kind of curious. Let me put this in rendered preview view. See, look, that's still good performance. It's not very sluggish at all. Now, let me go ahead and do that with the other side. I have a feeling this is going to be very sluggish. For one thing, it's going to take quite a bit longer to generate the initial preview. A lot longer. Yeah. And then look how sluggish it is. Shift D has its place. Like what Shift D to duplicate objects has its place. Like if you think you're going to have to change an object at a later point, whether you're changing the physics settings or the material settings, something like that of a specific object. But if you know you're going to have the same exact information for each object, Alt D saves memory, enhances the performance of the UI, and makes rendering take a lot less time. But anyway, I guess that's it. If you have any questions about this, I just thought this was interesting. I guess that's all. Later, people.